This is Garden Variety, a horticulture podcast from Iowa Public Radio and Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. It's Talk of Iowa from IPR News. Today is Horticulture Day. I'm Charity Nebbe. If your yard and landscape looks worse for the wear after a few weeks of extreme heat, it might be time to think about planting some perennials that truly thrive in the heat of summer. Aaron Steil, Iowa State University Extension horticulture specialist, just happens to have some excellent suggestions. Hello, Aaron.
Good morning.
So, it has been hot, and a lot of the summer has also been quite dry. Are you seeing the results of that throughout the state? Are you seeing lawns and yards that look a little sad?
Yeah, it's not uncommon for us to get into kind of mid to later summer and have plants that are a little tired looking. And so there are some out there, though, that just really do thrive in these conditions. And it's nice to have these plants in your garden so that you have something great to look at, even when some of the other stuff is a little ragged looking.
All right. Well, let's dive into your list. Where do you want to start?
I think I'm going to start with a very familiar one, but a great one nonetheless, and that's purple coneflower. Just the classic Echinacea purpurea, the kind of common purple coneflower, is a great perennial. What I love about this plant, apart from the fact that it just does well in hot and dry and a wide variety of conditions, is that it's a great garden-sized plant. So it doesn't get huge, but it's still very impactful in the landscape. There's some really nice cultivars out there. There are actually dozens and dozens of cultivars out there. I like just the straight species, but there's also a hybrid out there called Cheyenne Spirit that is particularly nice. It comes, it grows very readily from seed, and it will flower the first year, and it comes in a lot of different colors. So you get this nice kind of rainbow of colors, reds and whites and purples and oranges, and it's just like a really pretty mix of plants. And when you consider that purple coneflower, individual plants may not live in your garden for a very long time, but it sets seed, and so you'll have a patch of purple coneflower in your garden for years and years and years if you want it.
I also just love how long the blossoms last.
Yeah.
They endure for weeks, and they're so beautiful. And I'll point out, of course, that purple coneflower is native to Iowa. There are a number of plants on your list that are native to Iowa and native to other parts of North America. That makes a lot of sense that those are the plants that really thrive in our summer heat.
Absolutely. I noticed that too. And the other big group of plants on my list that I really like for these types of, hot and dry weather conditions are a lot of the ornamental grasses, especially those that are native to our tall grass prairie. In particular, big blue stem, little blue stem, and prairie dropseed are some of my favorites. There is a big blue stem called Black Hawks that is the Perennial Plant Association's Perennial Plant of the Year this year. And what makes it so amazing is that it has, it emerges kind of green, kind of a dark green color. And then as the season progresses, it gets darker and darker purple colored. And by the end of the season in early fall, the plant is almost looks black in color. So it really stands out, especially when you consider that it gets 4, 5, 6 feet tall once it's fully established. So that's a really fun, newer cultivar of a wonderful native grass that looks great in the garden.
All right. What's next on your list?
I think looking at stuff that's a little shorter and smaller, I like the stuff that sits at the end or the edge of the border. And I feel like, I kind of like collecting plants a little bit. So I like these little guys because they can kind of, be tucked here or there and everywhere. And so one of them that's on my list that I see around, but I don't see in people's landscapes as often, is Ozark sundrops. So this is another name for it is Missouri evening primrose. And this is another prairie native. It's kind of a rambly plant. It kind of has the same habit as a geranium, a perennial geranium might, where it kind of it sits kind of low to the ground, maybe a foot tall, but it gets these beautiful, bright yellow flowers that are actually kind of large considering the size of the plant. They're this really cheery yellow color. Each flower lasts only a day. They tend to open up kind of afternoon and then will kind of close the next morning or late morning. And then they produce this really funky looking fruit that has like 4 wings on it. That's kind of fun. But it just kind of sporadically blooms all season long. And it loves hot, dry conditions. I have one of mine perched on top of a retaining wall. And that's a great spot for it because it's well drained. It does get kind of hot there. It's in the full sun and it just thrives.
All right. What's next?
Another one that fits this kind of jewel box kind of feel to it is sea thrift or armeria. And I'm seeing more and more of these in garden centers in the last couple of years. This is a plant. I mean, it's probably no surprise that plants, just like a lot of other things in our world, kind of come and go in terms of popularity. And this one is starting to rise again in popularity and availability. And there's some really nice cultivars of it. It has this kind of little tuft of grass-like foliage. This is not a big perennial, and it is not something that's going to create a big mass in your garden. This is one that you put in a spot where you can get up close and appreciate it. It gets these little pink clusters of flowers. There's also some really nice dark pink cultivars and some white cultivars, and it really does well with our hot, dry conditions. In fact, if soils are too wet or they stay too wet, this is where this plant would actually suffer a little bit. So this is the kind of weather that sea thrift really loves.
All right. And you've already inspired me to spend too much money at the garden
I know,
center.
it's easy to do.
Right. Okay. What else, Aaron?
So a lot of the things that we like for hot, dry locations, sunny, hot, dry locations are kind of later in the season bloomers. And one of my favorites that fits this very well is the aromatic aster. So this is Symphyotrichum oblongifolium. It's called aromatic aster because the foliage is really aromatic when you crush it. But what I love about this aster, the other kind of common aster that we see, it's a lovely plant, is like New England aster or New York aster. And these are lovely plants, but they tend to be very large for a lot of perennial gardens. And what I love about aromatic aster is that it's smaller, more compact, stands more upright, which is nice. So plants tend to be about 2 foot tall, maybe 3 foot tall at the most. And then late in the season, they get completely covered in purpley, kind of lavendery purpley flowers. There's this really lovely cultivar that is pretty common called October Skies that has almost a sky blue daisy-like flower on it. The butterflies love it. It's nice to have something like that so late in the season, and it's not uncommon to see this thing in bloom all the way through October.
Wow.
In our gardens. So that's kind of a fun one that's coming up here soon.
Absolutely. It just extends the summer season a little bit. What else is on your list, Aaron?
Let's see. Of course, I have to talk about butterfly weed. And there's a lot of different Asclepiases out there. And many of us are familiar with milkweeds because of the monarch butterfly. And of course, we know that they are the host plant for their caterpillars. And this is a very nice garden perennial milkweed. When we think about the classic milkweed, sometimes, we like it, but it has weed in the name for a reason. You know, it can get a little out of hand accidentally in our gardens. But what I love about perennial milkweed or this butterfly weed is, again, it's not quite as seedy as the more common milkweed is. And it has these beautiful, just absolute orange flowers. And we don't see that color orange very often in our gardens. We see a lot of reddish oranges or yellowish colors. This is just like a beautiful orange color. It's also a smaller statured plant, which is nice. This is one a lot of people get nervous about in the spring because it comes up super late in the spring. Sometimes it's June before it emerges from the ground, but it loves hot, dry weather, so it catches up with all the other ones really quickly and serves as a great nectar source for butterflies beyond the monarch, and of course, could be a host plant for their caterpillars too. So it's just a nice one. Mine in my garden right now is in full bloom, and it's just lovely to see those little orange flowers and the butterflies like it too.
Yeah, ours is blooming right now, and we saw 6 caterpillars on it the other day. So
Yes.
it's doing its work for sure.
Yep.
All right, I think we have time for a couple more. What's next?
Okay, so I also really enjoy blanket flowers. And this is another one. The Gaillardia is the genus name for this. This is another one I'm seeing a fair amount in garden centers. And there's some really lovely cultivars. All of them are in warm colors, so reds and oranges and yellows. And a lot of times the flowers have all of those colors in it. So it's a daisy-type flower with a big fluffy center. And then they usually radiate out from either reds out to oranges and yellows or the opposite, yellows out to oranges and reds, depending on the cultivar. It's another small statured plant. I didn't realize until I was sitting here getting ready to start here that I have a fair number of kind of small statured plants on my list. But I like these plants because they fit in our yard. I can always find a spot for them somewhere. I can shoehorn them in. So,
Right, and you can put the ornamental grasses behind them.
Exactly.
Nice.
And what's nice about the Gaillardia or the blanket flower is this is another kind of front of the border plant. Loves hot, dry conditions. It's thriving right now. It blooms for most of the summer. And I even think the little kind of spent flower heads are kind of fun. They're just like this little puffy, it's like the puffy center that's left behind. And even that's somewhat attractive. This isn't necessarily, well, a lot of the stuff we've talked about here today is native. This one's native to Eurasia, but is still a lovely plant for our gardens. Because of its size and its beautiful reds and yellows. There's one called Mesa Peach that is particularly nice and one of my favorites in my garden.
All right, and it doesn't get out of control. It's an
it
import
doesn't.
that's easy to manage.
It is easy to manage, yes.
All right, well, some excellent suggestions. Aaron Steil is Iowa State University Extension Horticulture Specialist. For more gardening information and tips, please subscribe to our Garden Variety newsletter. You can find out more at iowapublicradio.org/garden. I'm Charity Nebbe. Garden Variety is a production of Iowa Public Radio and Iowa State University Extension. It's produced by me, Aaron Steil, Caitlin Troutman, and the Iowa Public Radio talk show team. For more garden goodness, please subscribe to our Garden Variety newsletter. Just go to iowapublicradio.org/garden. I'm Charity Nebbe. See you next time.